Alright guys, so you clicked on this video because you're a little bit lost on the CS50 web track, and reasonably so, because they just kind of throw you in the deep end and expect you to survive somehow, right? And I'm assuming a lot of you are feeling that way. I certainly did when I went through this, so I just finished finance actually earlier this morning, and before I go on to the final project, I just wanted to make a video on kind of how I got through this, because it is very frightening at first, because they only go through, 4 videos, and then you gotta do homepage, and then for finance, they only go through 2 videos, and then you gotta do finance. And, they just kind of give you the brief overview of things and then throw you into a project, and you just gotta, figure it out. And, well, it's no accident that they do that, right? That's just kind of what programming is and for me, what makes it so fun, right? But, that's how it's always gonna be. You're never gonna be, comfortable in programming. But anyways, they throw you in the deep end, and you just gotta kind of figure it out yourself, and that is how you get better at programming, really. But it is very intimidating when you do that, and so I just wanted to kind of share with you guys my process of how I got through these. Especially homepage finance was a little bit more straightforward, because they already had the structure laid out for you. But homepage, it's just they throw you in, and you got to design a homepage entirely by yourself, right? And that's very hard. It's scary. So basically what my process is, right? This thing, it's really just breaking bigger problems into smaller problems. And that's what programming is. That's how you problem solve. That's the goal that they want to get you at, and that's why they throw you in the deep end, right? They don't want to just hand you these things and then you can learn how to do this specific homepage or finance. But through the struggles of getting through this, you'll learn how to do this thing, which is breaking down bigger problems into smaller problems, and that's really the key, right? And so that's basically what I did. They throw you into homepage. You have a little knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and not really. You watch an hour and a half of video, and then they just throw you in, and you have to make all this. Well, this is actually finance, but so basically what you do is you have this homepage, right? You have to make something, and that you go through steps. So let's say you want to make your first page, right? And you just start with a blank canvas, right? You write hello world, and that shows on the screen. And okay, so then you start thinking, what do I want on my website? And on the homepage, you think, okay, well, where should I start with that? Maybe a header would be nice, right? Google this stuff, right? And Google and YouTube is your best friend. You'll learn that the header is probably the best place to start with things. You can really do whatever you want, but I just chose to do a header first because that's everywhere on the website, and I was like, okay, let me get a nice header, then I'll worry about the website later. So I just focused on getting the header. I'm like, okay, how would I actually go about making a header? Well, that's not as straightforward as it might seem, but I guess I would start with, well, how do we just get the text to be in one area, right? Because if you just write a bunch of text, it'll just go, top to top, left, top to bottom right, something like that, and it's not going to be aligned where you want it, right? So how do you get it in a certain area? And right there, and you'll search for that problem, how to get something in a certain area, right? And you'll come to these things called divs, and we probably learned this in one of the videos, I don't remember. You learned a little bit of CSS, and you can start to fiddle around with that. So you make a div, and you make the background color red, so it's very visible, and you make the height 200 pixels, width 200 pixels, right? And you get this big red box in the top left corner of your screen. You're like, okay, cool, I made a box, but it's not a header, right? And you're like, okay, next problem. How do we get a div, which is basically just a container, right? And you'd know that by Google searching, but really what this comes down to is you have bigger problems, you make them smaller problems, and these smaller problems you can Google and get an answer. You never want to Google the bigger answers, right? You always want to go to the smaller answers and then Google that. That's how you learn. And so you have this box, and then you start fiddling around with the height and width, and you get okay, if I make the width 200 pixels and the height 100 pixels, that looks pretty good. Do some Google searching, and you'll come across this thing called percents and DWs, which is the width of the screen, right? And you can just set that to 100, and boom, perfect, and that'll be scalable as well. And scaling your website, making it fluid and responsive, that's a whole nother challenge. I think I'm rambling too much. Essentially, what I'm trying to get at is that you have to keep breaking down problems until you get to a point where you can Google search it and you get an answer. Or maybe sometimes it's not so straightforward, and you have to go really searching for an answer, but you get an answer, and then you test it out, and you fiddle around with it, and then you sort of have this understanding, right? And that's sort of what I did with divs, right? And I ended up learning about position fixed, which will make the header always at the top no matter where you are on the page. But basically it doesn't necessarily matter what specific thing you're on. The case, it's always going to be the case that what you need to do is have this giant project that you need to do, right? And then you break it into smaller and smaller and smaller tasks, and it becomes so manageable that it's okay, right? And then you just go to Stack Overflow, Google, YouTube, and you get an answer there. And slowly and over time, you'll start to build up this knowledge of how to website. Eventually you'll feel a little bit more competent, but again, in programming, you're never going to feel secure and like you know what you're doing, such as, you know, other things you can master, because it's a constantly evolving field, and that's just not how things are in programming. And that's sort of the fun of it too, right? You're always learning. You're always gonna, I mean, basically the biggest thing to learn is how to learn and how to get through problems. And that's why they just throw you in the deep end, and that's why it's so frustrating. And that's why I'm not going to give you the answers here and show you my code. But yeah, really, you just gotta push through, and it'll be very frustrating at times, but you have to just get through it and avoid the temptation to just look up how to make a header, because that's gonna take away that learning experience of fiddling and trying to make that your own. Odds are the way you're going to do it, if you do it this way, where you just break it down into small problems and you make your own thing, it's probably not going to be the most efficient thing. So, you know, the most efficient way to do that. And so once you've made your thing, let's say a header, then look up how to make beautiful header, and you'll see, oh, I could have done it that way, right? And you'll learn even better ways to do that. And so in the future, you can make really good headers that are efficient and that look really good, and you'll know the pitfalls of like what you did in the past. At the other side, where I am now, you know, I finished homepage and finance, and it's like you look back on your project and like, wow, that was really cool, and I did that, and that's crazy, because thinking about doing that is like insane. Like to think about remaking those projects, like doing homepage from the start, like I wouldn't know where to start. But again, it's because I don't know how to make a website, but I know how to make like a header, and I know how to make words on the page, and I know how to like make links so I can link pages together, right? And you put all that together, and that makes a website. It's really about the small things, right? Breaking it down, and I'm way over repeating myself, and I really should stop talking. So that's basically all I wanted to say. Keep going, guys, though. It's a hard thing, but it'll pay you tenfold in the future. And to those of you who make CS50, you're definitely not watching this video, but you're amazing. Thank you. So without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helped a little bit.